These thugs better not mess with this martial artist. He has a black belt and isn't afraid to show them why. This is Sega Masters. Yes, we have another beat 'em up on tap for today's episode, if the guy in the karate gi hadn't already tipped you off. The Master System's first year in North America saw two brawlers grace its ranks, the first being the horrible My Hero that we covered a few episodes back. But thankfully Sega decided to bring out this other cart as more or less a mulligan, which just about makes up for it, despite a few rough edges. The game unfolds just like most other brawlers as it involves a martial artist, in this case Ricky, out to rescue his girl from the forces of his evil rival Wong. In each of the game's 6 stages, Ricky must make his way to the end of the path within a given time limit, taking out an endless army of baddies with a selection of punches and kicks. And occasionally you can shoot fire out of your hands and feet. At certain points in the level, a sub-boss will come forward to challenge you, and you need to dispose of them in order to continue on your way fighting more thugs. So yes, you can almost look at this card as Sega's answer to the Nintendo and Irem classic Kung Fu, with very similar gameplay but with nicer visuals. And just like how Kung Fu was based on a combination of a Bruce Lee film and a Jackie Chan film, Black Belt has its own hidden history to us Westerners. The original Japanese version of this cart was actually based on the anime manga series Hokuto no Ken, better known in the West as Fist of the North Star. It lets you take control of the series' protagonist, Kenshiro, and battle thugs across post-apocalyptic wastelands. Plus, when you defeat foes, they explode instead of just dropping off the screen or blinking away like other brawlers, though it's not as graphic as the anime. Sega eventually decided to bring Hokuto no Ken across the Pacific, but since the series wasn't well known outside of Japan at the time, they reskinned the characters and settings with more generic versions to delete any reference to the anime, including replacing Kenshiro with karate stereotype Ricky. On top of that, the cool anime box art for the Japanese version was replaced with perhaps the laziest cover art possible. This tells you all you need to know about Sega's North American marketing during the pre-Tonka and pre-Genesis years. Anyway, back to the US version, which plays the same as the Japanese cart despite the change of visuals, including keeping the exploding foes. As you're constantly dispatching toughs, power-ups will often float by in the sky, such as Japanese food to regain your energy and kanji symbols to make you invincible for a short time. Though you need to super jump to snag them by pushing down then up on the D-pad. The controls are easy to use for the most part, and pulling off the different attacks is no problem, though jumping can be a little stiff at times, especially in the heat of battle. Assuming you reach the end of the level, Ricky moves on to square off with the boss in a one-on-one fight, and you get a nice close-up view of the battle. Obviously you need to deplete your opponent's life bar before he does the same to you, and thankfully your energy is refilled before the fight begins. The thing is, you can't just walk up and punch and kick him into oblivion. Each boss has a unique attack pattern and requires a different technique to defeat them, adding a nice bit of strategy to the standard punch-kick formula. Once you do manage to deplete your enemy's life bar, you get a cool finishing sequence as Ricky batters his defeated foe with a flurry of punches and kicks before leaving him laying and heading off to the next level. Granted, Black Belt doesn't stray too far from the standard beat-em-up formula, but the game is mostly competent. Certainly a lot more playable than My Hero. The action unfolds at a nice brisk pace, though a few of the levels seem to run a little long. The main scenes have some solid looking backgrounds and the characters are nicely drawn and animated while fitting the theme of each setting nicely. Of course, most of your opposition in each level, outside of the mini-bosses, are clones of the same thug. The close-up boss battles are also pretty well done, with well-defined characters and some solid animation. The sound features the standard oriental music you might expect for this type of gameplay, and while it is pretty catchy, each level uses the same tune, and the sound effects are a little flat. But while the gameplay is mostly solid, a few frustrating cheap spots do pop up, such as the swooping birds and the whip-toting ninjas in the 4th level. The boss fights are a bit inconsistent difficulty-wise as well. Half of them aren't too hard, but the others will try your patience, especially Rita in the 5th level, who is a pain to defeat. You do get extra lives from scoring enough points, but there's no continues to be found after you lose your last life. At the same time, with only 5 stages and a final boss battle, this is a game you can beat in an hour with enough practice. So Black Belt isn't quite the karate master its name might suggest, but is still a solid and enjoyable fighter. It's easy enough to get into without too much trouble, while providing some nice action, and it even outclasses Nintendo's Kung Fu in several aspects. Later beat-em-up titles do improve upon the gameplay found here, and some of the difficulty issues may be a slight turn-off, but definitely check this one out for a playthrough or two.